so much. My name is Lola Lynch, and I am the director of the Readers Theater here in Hueneme Bay, the Seasoned Players. And Penny King is the musical director of the Hueneme Bay Strummers. And we would like to welcome you to our annual old-fashioned Christmas, where we sing and have a good time and hear stories. And I would like to get a little business done before we get to the entertainment part. If you have telephones or other noise makers, please turn them off. If indeed nature should call sometime during the evening, please do not attempt to get to this restroom, but go out the back door and round into the restrooms for the pool. So, yeah, you just go right out this door and around to the patio and then down that hallway, and there'll be restrooms on the right. But it's not bad. I
wealthy man, black-eyed, hot-tempered, with wonderful sensitive hands. From childhood, he had the gift of shaping wood into marvelous imitations of life, and for a long time, he accepted this talent with gratitude as a sign of God's favor. But the day came when Luigi cursed heaven. It was the day that he learned his daughter, his only child, had been born blind. After that day, Luigi went no more to the little church on the hill. He refused to allow prayers in his house. His child had been called Maria after the mother of Jesus. He changed her name to Rosa. His wife pleaded in vain. Nothing could move him.
I will have nothing to do with a God who condemns innocent children to darkness.
Then in mid-December, in the year 1207, a mule train came through Brescia. Among the treasures for sale was a magnificent tusk of ivory. As soon as he saw it, Luigi had the thought that he would carve it into a doll, a bambino for his little girl. In 3 days, it was finished. Life-size, smiling, the ivory bambino seemed almost to breathe. Luigi told no one about the ivory image except his wife. Meanwhile, in the village, everyone was talking about the young friar who had come from a neighboring town to preach. People came away with an extraordinary sense of peace, as if all the anger and pain of living had been lifted from their hearts. Luigi's wife heard the young friar preach, and she begged her husband to come to church with her. But Luigi shook his head.
When this God of yours shows me that he can cure blindness, then I will believe in him.
He would not let his wife take Rosa either, but she wanted desperately to bring her child into contact with the love and warmth that seemed to flow from the young friar. On Christmas Eve, she thought of a way.
When, by chance, Luigi went into his workshop, his shout of fury brought the servants running. The ivory bambino was gone. From a terrified maid, Luigi learned that his wife had taken the ivory image to the church. Out into the street and up the hill stalked Luigi, black anger in his heart. But before he could reach the church door, a cavalcade swept up. 3 young nobles, richly dressed, then 6 mounted servants, and finally 2 carts loaded with animals: sheep, goats, oxen, a donkey. A young man in a purple coat sprang down from his horse.
Francesco Bernardoni, we've got your message and we are here.
Luigi spoke roughly to one of the servants.
Who is this Francesco Bernardoni that you seek here in Greccio?
That is he, the friar.
The servant pointed as the church door opened, and a slender, brown-clad figure came out.
Welcome, my friends, and God's peace be upon you all.
We brought the animals, but really, Francesco, how long are you going to play this farce?
Luigi tightened his hold on the servant's shoulder.
Who is this man?
In Assisi, until not long ago, he was my master's friend and drinking partner. Now they say he preaches the word of God. It is very strange.
Other servants were unloading the carts, where the frightened animals reared and plunged.
A moment, please.
The young friar walked over to the nearest cart and laid his hand on one of the oxen.
Be calm there, brother ox, and you, sister sheep, do not baa so pitifully.
Even as he spoke, the animals grew calm and still. A hush seemed to fall upon the people who had gathered. In this sudden quiet, the friar said to the young man in the purple cloak,
Come into the church, Lorenzo. I want to show you my manger scene.
I'm no believer, Francesco.
All the more reason for coming in, my friend.
The friar turned back into the church. All the animals followed him, the people too. He inside near the altar was a shelter made of green boughs, and in the shelter was a manger. Luigi knew what it contained, for a woman was kneeling near it, her face beautiful in the candlelight. It was his wife. Without being led, without being driven, the animals gathered around the manger. Then the little friar stood before them.
I was going to read you from the Christmas story from the Gospel, but my nativity scene makes me so happy that I am going to sing it to you.
No one who heard this song ever forgot its sweetness. He told the ageless story of the angels and the shepherds, of the wise men. Even the animals seemed to be listening. And Luigi was prepared to believe that they could understand the words too, because an even greater miracle was taking place within himself. His anger seemed to be fading away. Nor was his the only heart that was being changed. The young man in the purple cloak moved forward. From around his neck, he took a chain of gold, and he knelt down and put it beside the manger. And after him, his companions came and put down gifts. Luigi felt a touch on his arm. Looking around, he saw the little friar smiling at him.
You wondered if God could cure blindness. Well, my friend, we are watching him do it, are we not?
Luigi did not answer, for there was tightness in his throat. He could see the villagers crowding forward to look into the manger, and the awe and wonder in their faces as they gazed upon his handiwork. Afterwards, there were those who swore that the ivory bambino stirred and smiled and lifted his arms to them. But no doubt, this was the flickering candlelight. Then the friar said,
Please thank your daughter for the loan of her Christmas present. And now you may take it back.
No, it is where it belongs. Let it stay.
But tomorrow is Christmas. Your little girl will be disappointed.
No, I will make her another bambino. I will carve her a whole manger scene so that Maria will have Christmas at her fingertips whenever she wants it.
So Luigi went home, leaving behind the ivory bambino with St. Francis of Assisi in what, according to legend, was the first actual creche. Hand in hand with his wife, he walked back down the hill, and he worked all night with gratitude in his heart, because he knew that in his house, blindness had indeed been cured, not his daughter's, but his own.
Mendel worked hard, traveling to villages near and far, selling the pots and pans and handkerchiefs and trinkets that he carried in his waist sack. Rivka worked hard, too, to keep their children clothed and fed, but it wasn't easy on the little they had. In the same town, there lived a lumber merchant named Fievel. Now, he too had 3 children, but Fievel's wife had 2 servants to clean the house, and he himself had a coachman who drove him from one town to the next to see his customers. Fievel was never happy to give to charity. If a beggar came to his door, he would always say,
I'm in a hurry. I have to leave on business. Come back another day.
but on any day, Fievel's answer would still be the same. Now, it wasn't the right way, but it was his way. When the holiday of Hanukkah came, people would hurry home through the frosty air to light candles and say the blessings. Children would laugh and play for hours at a time as the wooden top, the dreidel, spun and spun around. And then out of the kitchen would come delicious latkes, potato pancakes. The children would eat, and then back to the dreidel they would go. But this year, at the house of Mendel the peddler, things had gone so badly that Rivka could not buy even a single potato. On the first night of Hanukkah, Leah, Gidel, and Deborah were walking home from the synagogue behind their father. On their way, they passed by the house of Fievel the merchant. As they turned the corner, they found themselves right underneath the kitchen window. And what an aroma met their cold little noses. It was the smell of golden latkes, just out of the pan, floating in the air.
Oh, let's smell the latkes.
For the 3 hungry children, it was as if they had eaten a whole plateful. They hurried home. Inside their frail little hut, Rivka lit the first candle and recited the blessings over it. The wind whistled through the cracks in the wall and almost blew the candle out. But the children didn't mind the wind. They were remembering the rich smell of the latkes at Fievel's window. At home, the children played dreidel, and then after kissing their parents goodnight, Leah went to the left side of the bed, Gittel went to the right, and Deborah crept into the middle. They huddled under their blankets and went to sleep smiling happily.
Look, Rivka, the children are hungry. But they go to sleep smiling. What could this mean?
Rivka only shook her head, but she wondered too. And so it went. On each of the first 7 nights of Hanukkah, the children made sure to find their way through the streets to Fievel's house. Then they would rush to the window and breathe in the aroma of the latkes again. And on each night, the children went to bed smiling. Now, it happened that on the 8th night, as the children stood beneath the window, the cook of the house looked outside and saw their faces.
Master, mistress, come quickly. There are some beggar children smelling our latkes.
When Fievel came to the window and saw the children, he began to shout angrily.
So, the 3 of you have been stealing the smell of my latkes. I won't have Mendel the peddler's children coming to my house and taking the smell of my food right out from under my nose. Why, it's like you're eating for nothing.
And the very next day, Fievel and his wife and children hauled Mendel and his wife and children to the house of the rabbi. Now, when the news got out, all the townspeople went there too, to see what would happen. Rabbi Yonah was a kindly man, known throughout the small town for his wisdom and his fair judgments. He sat at his wooden desk, which was piled high with books and scrolls, and he listened calmly as Philo presented his complaint.
Rabbi, these children have been smelling my latkes for the entire holiday. It's as if they took the food right out from under our noses.
Well, and what do you want me to do about it?
Rabbi, I don't mind if they take the smell, but at least they should pay for it. Yes, let them pay a fine.
And how much do you propose this fine to be?
What's right is right. I demand fair payment. Let them pay me 1 ruble for each time they stood under the window. For the 8 nights of Hanukkah, that would be 8 rubles.
8 rubles? Philo the merchant wants Mendel the peddler to pay 8 rubles for the smell of his latkes.
But Rabbi, I do not have 8 rubles to give. I barely have a kopeck to my name as it is. How can I pay this fine?
Rabbi Yonah tapped his fingers on the desk for a moment, and then he looked through the window at the crowd that had gathered outside the house. He opened the door and he spoke to all the townspeople.
Friends and neighbors, look into your pockets. Who has Hanukkah geld?
Everyone, mothers, fathers, grandparents, children, they reached into their coats or trousers, even into their boots. One by one, they dropped their little copper coins into a small brown bag that the rabbi held out to them. After he had collected all the coins, he tied up the little bag with a string, and then Rabbi Yonah began to do a very strange thing. He began to shake the bag. He shook the bag and he shook the bag. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, until the coins jingled like a little music box. The people looked at each other with wide eyes.
Has our rabbi gone crazy? What can he be doing?
Finally, he stopped. Silence filled the room. The rabbi turned to Philo and said,
There, my friend. What's right is right. You asked for fair payment, and you have received it. We have paid for the smell of your Hanukkah latkes with the sound of Hanukkah bells. Now, go home and try and do good in the world.
When he heard these words, Philo turned around and he walked slowly out the door with his face to the ground. As the townspeople walked home, they nodded to each other.
How wise our rabbi is.
And after that day, any baker who came to Philo's house was given a good meal and a warm blanket to take home. The charity box in the synagogue was never empty, thanks to him. And then, every year at Hanukkah, Philo and his wife and children, and Mendel and his wife and children would light the menorah, play dreidel, and eat plates and plates of potato latkes together.
And 5, 6, 7, 8.
Santaland at Macy's. Sam and Dad and me. We saw elves and trains and lots of frosty Christmas trees. There were millions of tiny lights sparkling in the sky. And when we rounded the bend to Santa's house, it brought a tear to my eye. Sam had his picture taken sitting on Santa's lap. He didn't start to cry until the camera had gone snap. And then we went to Toyland. Upon the 8th floor it was. There were rows and rows of soft furry animals and lots of dolls. It was so much fun to be a child again, to know that Santa's real, to feel the magic and see the charm that only Christmas makes you feel.
He woke suddenly. It was 4 in the morning, at which hour his father had always called him to get up and help with the milking. Strange how the habits of his youth clung to him still. His father had been dead for 30 years, and yet he still waked at 4 in the morning. He had trained himself to go back to sleep, but this morning it was Christmas, and he did not try to go back to sleep. Why did he feel so awake tonight? He slipped back in time. He was 15, and still on his father's farm. He loved his father, but had not known it until one day, a few days before Christmas, when he overheard what his father was saying to his mother. "Mary, I hate to call Rob in the morning. He's growing so fast and needs his sleep. I wish I could manage alone." "Well, you can't, Adam," his mother said briskly. "Besides, he isn't a child anymore. He needs to take his turn." "Yes," his father said, "but I sure do hate to wake him." When he heard those words, something in him spoke. His father loved him. He had never thought of that before, taking the tie of their blood for granted. His mother and father didn't talk about loving their children. No time for such talk. So much to do on the farm. Now that he knew his father loved him, there would be no loitering in the mornings. He got up after that and put on his clothes. And then, on the night before Christmas, on the year he was 15, he lay for a few minutes thinking about the next day. They were poor, and most of the excitement was about the turkey they had raised and the mince pies his mother made. His sister sewed presents, and there were practical presents like a warm jacket or maybe a book. And he saved and bought presents too. He wished he had a better present for his father. He had bought a 10-cent store tie, nice enough, until he thought about the night before Christmas. He had once asked his father, "What is a stable?" "It's just a barn," replied his father, "like ours." Then Jesus had been born in a barn. The thought struck him like a dagger. Why should he not give his father a special gift too, out there in the barn? He could get up earlier than 4 o'clock, creep into the barn and get all the milking done. Then when his father went in to start the milking, he would see it all done and know who had done it. He laughed to himself. He mustn't sleep too sound. He'd wake several times that night, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. At 2:45, he arose, crept downstairs, and went to the barn. He had never milked alone before, but it seemed easy. He thought about his father coming to get him, going to get things started in the barn, opening the door to get the empty milk cans. But they wouldn't be empty. They'd be full in the milk house. Rob smiled and milked steadily, 2 strong streams rushing into the pail, frothing and fragrant. It wasn't a chore. It was a gift to his father who loved him. He finished the milk pails were full. He sneaked back into his room, pulled off his clothes, and settled under the bed covers. His father came and called him. "Rob, you have to get up even if it's Christmas." Rob laughed to himself. In a few moments, his father would know. His dancing heart was ready to jump from his body. The moments were endless until he heard his father's footsteps again. The door opened. "Rob!" "Yes, Dad." His father was laughing a queer, sobbing sort of laugh. "Thought you'd fool me." "It's for Christmas, Dad." He felt his father's arms go around him, and they clutched in a giant hug. "Son, I thank you. Nobody ever did a nicer thing. Oh, Dad, I do want to be good." His father told him, his mother, and told the younger children about what Rob had done. "The best Christmas gift I ever had, and I'll remember it, son, every year on Christmas morning, so long as I live." They had both remembered it, and now that his father was dead, he remembered it alone, that blessed Christmas dawn, when alone with the cows in the barn, he had made his first gift of true love.
Terry.
special letter that was written December 14th, 1942. My dear soldier husband, I'm afraid Christmas shopping is upon us. With no money, no time, and no energy. It's a fine state of affairs. I wish I were one of those brave spirits who can make their families happy with a string of cranberries or popcorn and one candle in the window. But I never was, not even as a child. Whenever Mother used to read me 5 Little Peppers, I burst into tears, thinking that the poor creatures must be only pretending to be grateful. But the spirit of Christmas is within you, Mother would say. No, it's not, I would protest. It's down in that shop where the bicycles are. There must have been a terrible conflict between my yen for a new bicycle and my mother's Presbyterian conscience. I'm surprised she didn't feel compelled to wrap at least one of my presents in sackcloth and ashes. Of course, once I became an Episcopalian, I decided there would be lush surprises for everyone and nothing character building like castor oil. Well, small driblets of cash will have to be wrung from somewhere, as the children have worked so hard for the war effort on the home front. They deserve as good a holiday as I can manage. They're full of suggestions, planning to decorate the tree with feathers out of old pillows and oatmeal flakes for snow. It's sure to be very cute and pioneer spirit and make you feel like bursting into tears all over again. I like trees to glitter and be hung with little gold and silver and cerise and turquoise packages that make one think of Saks Fifth Avenue and Rudolph Goodman's. Do you think we will ever have a Christmas like that again? Maybe not. But when you are home again, we will make it the best Christmas ever. Good night now, darling. I'd like to keep on telling you about the wonderful times to come, but the dog is waiting for his walk, which has turned out to be quite an excursion every evening because the cat insists on going too. Your loving wife.
Stuck in
onions, because they filled her up with gas. Elsie could not have eggnog, because it knocks her on her ass.
I made Martha Stewart tart, sweet and highfalutin. Then 6 people couldn't eat it because it contained gluten.
Sherman could not have shellfish, or he would asphyxiate. There wasn't one damn item that could stay on Linda's plate.
But my guests couldn't eat it because no one ate dairy. I broke down and wept. If you're a vegan, then why'd you accept?
Penny got on her podium, and on and on and on she went about the evils of sodium. Les House is lactose intolerant.
Peter was prone to bloating. He couldn't eat broccoli. Annie gets acid reflux every time she looks at me.
When I put the turkey down, Sarah had to say, ever since the world began, I can't eat no tryptophan.
Everyone at the table, getting up in years, you see, skipped the meal altogether and talked about their surgery.
So I said, pass the vino, and pour me some vino, and screw it. Next year, your house, please.
And now we have a letter from parents to their child.
This is a letter that was written by mom and dad to their son Ryan. Dear Ryan, you asked a really good question. Are mom and dad really Santa? We know that you want to know the answer, and we had to give it some careful thought to know just what to say. The answer is no. We are not Santa. There is no one single Santa. We are the people who fill your stocking and choose and wrap the presents under the tree, just as our parents did for us. Their parents did for them, and you will do this for your kids someday. This could never make any of us Santa. Santa is lots and lots of people who keep the spirit of Christmas alive. He lives in our hearts, not at the North Pole. Santa is the magic and the love and the spirit of giving to others. What he does is to teach children to believe in something they can't see or touch. Throughout your life, you will need this capacity to believe in yourself, in your family, in your friends, and in God. You'll need to be able to believe in things you can't measure or hold in your hands. Now you know the secret of how he gets down all those chimneys. He has help from all the people whose hearts he has filled with joy. With full hearts, people like Mommy and Daddy take our turns helping Santa do a job that would otherwise be impossible. So no, we are not Santa. Santa is love and magic and hope and happiness. We are on his team, and now you are too. We love you, and we always will, Mom and Dad.
I like that.
it up. So I'm going to change my style this year and give you the St. Nicholas reality show. So I'm going to start shedding some of these trappings that I've been carrying ever since the 4th century, which is when I began my time on this planet. Is there a reliable young person here that will hold this little doohickey from St. Nicky? Now be very careful of that. It's solid gold, precious stones. I'm making a list, checking it twice, so you take good care of that too. Now, what I would like to do is dispel some of the myths that have come up over the centuries. I am Nicholas of Myra. Myra was a town in Asia Minor, the land that you call Turkey today. And I was a simple bishop of well-to-do parents, and I was a good man, but I was just a man then. But then things began to happen. Now, some of this mythology is quite strange. To begin with, the idea that I come down everybody's chimney every year. Let me tell you what happened. There was a man in my town, a nice man who had 3 lovely daughters. He went bankrupt, and he did not have the funds to provide dowries for his dowries. And so, unfortunately, as the case was in those times, he was going to have to sell them into what was then what you would call a life of prostitution. That's the way things were then. So when I heard this, I looked at the 3 girls and I went, oh no, ho, ho, ho. And somehow the rumor got started that Santa Claus laughs quite strangely. But it was only a rumor. Now, I didn't want him to know that my parents had died and they had left me quite well off, and I really didn't need the king of the town gave me his crown, which is so terribly heavy for me. I'm just going to take it off again. I had to take it off once before. It's really not me, but it did set the period. It's Byzantine in style, and that was the style then, but it's long out of fashion now. So I'm going to just ditch it. However, as a bishop, I must continue to wear some kind of covering on my head, so thank you. Now, I provided the first 2 dowries for the first 2 daughters, but I was embarrassed because the father was so touched and felt obligated to follow me around and such. And I felt so badly about this that I decided to give the last dowry anonymously. And so I saw he was home the day that I wanted to deliver it, so I snuck out behind. I was quite young then. And I shimmied up a tree, and I climbed up on the roof, and I dropped the bag of gold down the chimney. There you go. You dropped something down the chimney one time, and they expect you to do that forever. The next story that happened was, I heard of a family that was living on the outskirts of town, on the edge of the forest. They had nothing. They were living on the side of the forest in a makeshift environment, and so one day I decided to sneak through the forest and take their children some sweetmeats and small toys and small decorations to put in the house for the holiday festivities. Well, you see, I found some found objects in the clearing before I went into the woods, and I thought, I don't want all of these little toys to get all tangled up. And so I found this poor deceased animal, and I thought, well, he's gone, might as well make use and recycle. Long before anyone else ever thought of that. So I recycled these horns to hang the little trinkets on, and I walked into the woods and I delivered my gifts. Before I knew it, a couple of 100 years had passed, and they had me flying over the trees in a sleigh with 8 reindeer. Now, well, 8 was a good number, but to tell you the truth, it was a good number because it was a number of justice, but that had more to do with numerology than Christianity. The two entities of 4 and 4 are well balanced, and so 4 and 4 make 8, and that worked just splendidly. But then, mid-20th century, things changed again. Everyone started to think about technology and new modern fandangled contraptions. And why didn't my reindeer have headlights like the automobile? And so suddenly I was saddled with a 9th reindeer. And this one needed batteries. Well, such my life has been. But I want to say that basically I'm not unhappy with my place in the hierarchy of the Saint and Sinner's Ball. I have achieved fame, and like the song says, I am going to live forever. But I am going to have to change and evolve, as we all do. And so I want to tell you that all of these rumors, it's sort of like the telephone game, you know? Do you remember the telephone game? Even I know about telephones, and of course, telephones were very popular at one time. Now, of course, telephones are gone. I mean, well, they're not exactly gone, but you don't, hello, you... So, everything has got to come and go. The idea is to keep Christmas in our hearts. It may change from year to year, but we must keep it in our hearts, keep it in our souls, and remember to keep it as simple as possible. Come to Bethlehem, come to Bethlehem. Do we die, die? Come, children all, to the little stall where the little baby Jesus sleeps. Bring him flowers, bring him flowers. Do we die, die? Make of them a crown, gently lay them down where the little baby Jesus sleeps. Thank you, and Merry Christmas.
refreshments and camaraderie. Please join us there. And Merry Christmas.